Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الذين لا يعلمون لولا يكلمنا الله أو تأتينا آية كذلك قال الذين من قبلهم مثل قولهم تشابهت قلوبهم قد بينا الآيات لقوم يوقنون. This is chapter 2, verse 118, and it says, and those who have no knowledge say, why does not Allah speak to us, or a sign come to us? Even thus said those before them, the like of what they said. Their hearts are all alike. Indeed, we have made the message clear for a people who are certain. The next one is chapter 6, verse 109. Actually, 110. وَأَقْسَمُوا بِاللَّهِ جَهْدَ أَيْمَانِهِمْ لَئِنْ جَاءَتْهُمْ آيَةٌ لَّيُؤْمِنُنَّ بِهَا قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْآيَاتُ عند الله وما يشعركم أنها إِذَا جَاءَتْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. And they swear their strongest oaths by Allah, that if a sign came to them, they would certainly believe. Say signs are with Allah. And what should make you know that when they come, they believe not? And what should make you know that when they come, they believe not? Sadaqallahul Aliyyul Azim. The first verse that I recited to you, this is exactly what the Israelites used to ask Moses, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. Why does God only speak to you? What is wrong with us? Why doesn't he speak to us? And the Quraysh said exactly the same thing. The people at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Why does God select an orphan, a poor person, to be the prophet and then say to us to believe in him, to obey him, and to follow him? The point is that the nature of human beings is different. The second verse that I recited, Israelites said exactly the same thing. Why doesn't God show a miracle? If only he showed a miracle, we would believe him. He got you out of Egypt. You were slaves. He got you out of Egypt. Pharaoh chased you, and God allowed you to cross the water and drowned him, protecting you. And this is what the Quran says, that these miracles are with Allah, but even if they came, you may swear that you will believe, but you won't. You'll find some other excuse. And the point is that these miracles people ask for are something supernatural. And elsewhere in the Holy Quran, God says, they say to you, climb up to heavens and bring down a book. Well, this doesn't happen. And even if it did, they'll find some other excuse not to accept you, not to believe you. And the evidence of that is that they had a miracle in front of them. And they refused to recognize that. Why? Because it was inconvenient. Because it was inconvenient. And what was that? What was the miracle that they had? The Holy Quran. The teaching of the Quran is a miracle. Just think of the time. At that time, Romans used to send slaves into arenas to fight each other to death. They used to starve lions, then send them out into the arena, and then push slaves out into the arena. At that time, women were regarded as property. When someone died, his wife was inherited by his sons. Just like they would inherit horses and chattels and furniture and houses and everything else, they would inherit his wife as well. at that time to say you should not mistreat slaves. There was many years after the Holy Prophet Muhammad had passed away, a man was walking down the street. Someone was accompanying him, and they were both wearing the same clothes. I know ladies here will be astonished, because when they're going somewhere, they go to great lengths to make sure that they're not wearing the same thing. Especially if it's a function or a wedding or something. And nonetheless, these two gentlemen, they were wearing the same thing. So the man coming in the opposite direction, he knew one of them, and he greeted him. And he said, is this your brother or son, or who is he who's dressed in exactly the same way? And he said, no, he's my slave. And this person was astounded. He said, your slave is dressed in the same clothes. And he said, yes. I went to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day, and he instructed me in this way, that you may have slaves, but you have to give them to eat what you eat. You have to give them to wear what you and your family wear. Is that teaching in itself not a miracle? At the time when there was no conception of slaves having any rights at all. I've mentioned this many times, that in America there was a case brought for a grievous bodily harm against a person. And the person said, well, he's my slave, he's my property. I'll treat him as I like. And in court, his argument was, if I have a table and I break its leg, will you bring me to court and say you've damaged your table? No, you wouldn't. He's my property, he didn't do something I asked, so I beat him. So what? This is hundreds of years after this teaching in the Holy Quran, this teaching of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, that slaves are not to be mistreated. They are not to be worked until they collapse. You must feed them, clothe them, house them, in the same way as you house yourself. Isn't it interesting that the American Constitution says it's a self-evident truth that all men are created equal? They missed out a word. The founding fathers, when they were drafting the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights, missed out one word. What was the word? Any guesses? All white men are created equal. Because if all men are created equal, then how do you have slaves, and how do you treat them in the way that they treated them then, and the way they are treating them now? So obviously this word was missed out. And most people don't know that Benjamin Franklin actually had a copy of the Holy Quran, which was found in his library, which he was consulting, I guess, as he was drafting the American Bill of Rights for human beings. Isn't this a miracle that hundreds of years before, a man rises up and he says that slaves have the same rights as everyone else. Women have the same rights as everyone else. Hundreds of years later, when we first came to the UK, I have seen signs on the doors of bed and breakfasts. No Irish, no blacks, and no dogs. That means the Irish and you and I, we were no better than dogs. For some reason, it didn't say no cats. I suppose the British liked the cats, so they were quite happy to have them in their B&B. But what did the Holy Quran do? In his last sermon, well, not the last sermon, but last pilgrimage, the sermon that the Holy Prophet gave, it said, the black has no superiority over the white, and the white has no superiority over the black. The Arab has no superiority over non-Arab. Non-Arab has no superiority over the Arab, except in virtue and good deeds. It's not your lineage. It's not your nationality. It's not your color. It's your character that makes you superior to other people. That statement in itself, gleaned from the Holy Quran, was a miracle. And this miracle was in front of them at a time when people thought nothing of murdering someone from what they called a lower class. The most that would happen is they'll go to his widow and say, here's 10 pounds. I'll kill your husband, or, now get on with it. If they did that. At that time, for the Holy Quran to state that to kill one human being is akin to killing the whole of humanity. And to save one human being is akin to saving the whole of humanity. Isn't that a miracle? You read the Holy Quran. And one point that people miss is this. The Holy Quran describes the story of Adam. And then it describes the story of Israelites. And then other people. What is the Holy Quran trying to tell us? Human beings haven't changed from Hazrat Adam onwards. Most of them are greedy, unappreciative of what God has given them. And they keep on demanding miracles from God. He has given you a miracle. The Holy Quran is a miracle. Isn't it miraculous at that time? At the time when the chief of the tribe, when the king of a country had unfettered right to execute people, to institute due process, and say that everyone living under an Islamic government, every single person has rights. These days in some Muslim countries, they say that a Muslim cannot give evidence, that a non-Muslim cannot give evidence against a Muslim. And then at the same time, we say that Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Ta'ala bought something from a Jew. And the Jew lodged a claim in the court saying Hazrat Ali hadn't paid him. And Hazrat Ali went to court. And the judge said, well, you may be the head of state, but in my court you need to prove that you have actually paid this man. And Hazrat Ali Radhiyallahu Ta'ala called his sons. And who were his sons? The Holy Prophet's grandchildren, the Holy Prophet's grandsons. And they say, yes, Dad paid the man. And the judge said, I'm very sorry. I'm not prepared to accept the children's testimony in favor of their father. Who's the father? Ali, head of state, son-in-law of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And who are the witnesses being rejected? Children of the Holy Prophet's daughter. And the Qazi says, my decision is that either the Jew is paid or whatever the item was, it's returned to him. This is the miracle that people had in their hands. And yet they kept demanding, we want a miracle, we want a miracle. But can you see that this is the same thing? It says that in the verse of the Holy Quran that I recite. And these are exactly the same words that people uttered before. Show us a miracle and we'll believe. If you go to the Israelites, wasn't taking them out of Egypt a miracle? Wasn't saving them from Pharaoh a miracle? Wasn't providing them with food and water in the desert a miracle? What more miracle do you want? Sometimes, miracles happen and they're in front of us. My sister, Samina, she was very ill. And the doctor, I spoke to the consultant and he said, she will not last the night. And the consultant then carried on to say, his exact words were, only a miracle can save her now. That consultant, he wasn't a believer and so on. So I said, well, if you're saying she's going to die during the night, then I'm going to stay with her because I don't want her to die without any relative being present. So he said, okay, it's not a problem. And in the morning he came and there was a look of shock and astonishment on his face when he saw that she was alive. So I said to him, you asked for a miracle and God has granted a miracle. Look, you said it needs a miracle for her to last the night. And then she got better. And then she got sent back home. And then she survived for, I think, another 3 years or so. So what more miracle do you want? Do you want a miracle to walk up to you, slap you in the face and say, I am a miracle. Have a look at this. I don't understand what people say, we need a miracle, we want to see a miracle. Read the Holy Quran, that is a miracle. That teaching is a miracle. The teaching contained therein is superhuman, supernatural. So miracle, the Quran was a miracle. And the way the Holy Prophet Muhammad changed those people was a miracle. But with that, we will deal next week. Today's topic was the miracle of the Holy Quran, and that was its teaching, which was a miracle. And next week, we'll deal with how the Holy Prophet Muhammad put that teaching into practice and how he changed a whole nation. Anyone who doesn't believe that that was a miracle, here is a challenge. You've got two young people sitting here, and the challenge is you just change those two. I'm not asking you to change the whole nation. And if you can, then you have also performed a miracle. Let's start with something small. And that is that they get up early in the morning. Let's not start with many things, So if you can perform that miracle, that'll be great. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'anil azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun kareemun malikun barrufur rahim. I want to make a special mention of a couple of people and ask you to pray for them. Of course, everyone who's in difficulty and ill, etc., etc. But there is a gentleman who's committed a very serious crime in Pakistan. What happened was that in his office, where he was the manager, people were saying that you shouldn't buy a drink made by a company called Shizan, because Shizan is owned by what people say is a heretical group. And his comment was, well, we buy Coca-Cola and we buy 7-Up and so on. These people may be heretics, but at least they're Pakistani citizens. Their Coca-Cola and 7-Up, after making huge profits, they transfer those profits back to the US. Doesn't benefit Pakistan in the least. And for making that statement, it got a bit heated after that. So for making that statement, what happened to him? He was sacked. He lost his job. And then these people from the office started spreading rumors in the area where he lived about him being secretly a heretic and so on. And he's facing great difficulties and is very depressed. And he also special prayers. And other people as well who might be ill or in difficulty or who lost someone close to them, etc., etc. So please make sure that you pray for all these people. I haven't given his name deliberately because obviously that will just make things worse for him. Yes, I'm reminded that after Juma Namaz, we need to say Namaz-e-Janaza Ghaibana, funeral prayers in absence of a lady who passed away last week. But her funeral hadn't taken place at the time when we had our Friday prayers. So we couldn't say her funeral prayers last Friday. but we'll do it today. If I forget, please shout and say, just shout few praise to remind me. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وجعلنا منهم اللهم انصر من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولا ذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. For those who are viewing, please follow the audio. At the end of first rakat, I'll say Allahu Akbar in elongated to show that we are standing up, and in the second rakat, it'll be short Allahu Akbar to show that we are going to remain sitting. Line up, please. Straight rows. Iqamah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya al-salah, hayya al-falah. Qad qamatis salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamida.
ربنا لك الحمد
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده.
ربنا لك الحمد
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أستغفر الله. أستغفر الله. اللهم أنت تبارك. Mazin Jinaza, just to remind you, there are 4 takbeers. And after the first takbeer, you start off as you do normally. And after the second takbeer, you say Durood. Then after the third takbeer, either you recite a prayer for the deceased and everyone else who's died, either in Arabic or you can do that in your own language. And then after the fourth takbeer, we say Salam. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you for joining us for our Friday prayer. Our next broadcast is on Sunday, 9 a.m. UK time, from 9 to 9:30. It's in Urdu, and from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, it is in English. Next week, we are taking a break, so there'll be no Tadabburul Quran or reflections on the Holy Quran on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll have the normal Friday service, and again, there'll be no Sunday broadcast either. So next week, we will only have the Friday service. But you've got at least 102 broadcasts recorded on live stream, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on the radio website. So you can go and catch up if you missed anything. Until we meet again, I pray that Allah keeps all of you safe and sound and free from harm, regardless of your color, creed, religion, nationality, or sect. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.